How do you get the girl of your dreams? Apparently the men in my life assume I'm an expert on this subject because I get a lot of questions. These are the answers to the most mysterious questions about the female mind. I'm here to help you find love and help you to win the girl of your dreams. So here's a secret formula. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Emily, and for my day job, I work as a civil engineer. After hours, I like to bring you my favorite personal development advice to help you grow into the ideal version of yourself and engineer your dreams. So grab your tea, tuck in, and let's get started. The number one question I get asked the most is, how do I know if a woman likes me before I ask her out? The short answer is you don't, and she probably doesn't like you. If you're just meeting someone for the first time, this new woman is a complete stranger. She probably doesn't know, like, or trust you yet. So don't work under the assumption that she has to really like you before she goes out on a first date. You're only looking for signs as to whether or not she's receptive to your advances. And if she is open to getting to know you better, you'll notice in her body language that she'll be open and receptive. And some signs of that are that her body language is directed towards you and she's smiling, she's happy, she's continuing the conversation with you. Any kind of openness is an indication for you that she's maybe a little interested in getting to know you better. But in the early stages, it's just too much to assume that she may like you or may not. She probably doesn't like you yet. You're a complete stranger. Just focus on whether or not she's receptive to your advances, and that's kind of your green flag to continue in your pursuit. The next question I get often is, what do girls find most attractive on a first date? I feel like this is a little challenging because all girls are different, but all these questions are from my perspective. On a first date, the best thing for me is someone showing interest and investment in me personally. So when someone's setting up a first date, they're choosing places that I probably want to go to. The things I like the most on a first date are actions that show interest, intention, and investment. And that shows up in a few ways. That could be a man structuring a date, like planning it and figuring out transportation and the logistics of it. It can also mean he's choosing things that are, geared specifically towards me and my interests to make me happy and feel more at ease. And he's physically giving a lot of his time and attention to getting to know me better. In the first few dates, one of the best things that you can do to set the foundation for a good relationship with a woman is to act in a way that will build trust and cultivate a sense of safety with her. And the more you can create structure that will make her feel more at ease, the more receptive and open to your advances that she'll be in the future. One of the things that women also really like on dates is if you praise them for things that they have chosen instead of just on how they happen to be genetically. So if you compliment someone on their outfit, their life choices, something in their career, something that they've put a lot of effort into, that will give you a lot more brownie points than just saying, oh, your face shape is sexy. So if you are in the mood to give a woman a compliment her on something she's chosen and not something that she just happened to have in life. Okay, the next question I get asked a lot is, what is a good idea for a first date? This again is very person specific. So as you're in the early talking stages, you should just be trying to figure out what types of activities the girl likes, and you tailoring a first date to her personal preferences is probably the best thing you can do in order to get brownie points. But I would also say, err on the side of activity dates as opposed to dinner dates, because that makes it feel more fun and relaxed if you're doing something apart from just interviewing each other. If someone's brand new, sometimes going to a big dinner thing can feel intense because you're just across the table from each other, shooting questions back and forth. And if you're just kind of doing an activity, it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off and it makes everything lighter and more fun. Some of my favorite dates have been activity dates, and I definitely want more of them. If you're looking for specific ideas, some of my favorite dates have been going to an aquarium, going to a museum, going on a historic boat tour, going to paint night, going to an art exhibit. So all kinds of things that get you out into the city doing fun activities. I even once went to a trampoline park once, which was really fun and exciting. It made me feel like a kid bouncing around. But there are so many activity fun dates you can do. You don't just need to go to dinner and have drinks. And I think you'll really stand out if take the girl to the zoo, or if you guys go play mini golf as opposed to being just another guy asking her for drinks in her rotation. So the next question I get asked a lot is very controversial and very person specific. And that is, should a man pay on a first date? if you want to go on a date with me, the answer is yes. But really, it completely depends. I know women who will pay on the first date. I know women who will never pick up a bill in their life. It really runs the gambit depending on the woman and what her dating experience has been like, and also what her expectations are based on her cultural upbringing and her political affiliation. All of my dating advice is coming from the perspective of a more traditional woman who was expecting a man in her life to protect and provide. So if a man is not showing up for me financially on a date and taking care of me while I'm in his presence, my brain literally thinks he doesn't like me. So if you're the type of person who wants to go 50-50, you probably just can't attract someone who's more traditional, because what she's looking for in a man and what her upbringing and her dating experience has taught her is that men provide and take care of her. Having said that, there's a woman for everyone. And there are women who are happy to go 50-50, and there are women who expect men to provide for everything. You don't really know on a first date. I would suggest, just to be safe, paying for it on the first date. The etiquette rule is that if you ask someone out to do something, you should be paying for it. You cannot expect someone to come into your life and afford your lifestyle. So if you invite them into your life, it is then your responsibility to make sure that they feel at ease and safe during the experience. But if you invite a girl to a fancy restaurant that she doesn't normally go to, it is not fair to expect her to pay because you put her in that scenario. She wouldn't have been going to that fancy restaurant by herself. Paying on a date is just a small way for a man to show that he's investing in a woman. Safer to pay, to try to be chivalrous and to start off on a good foot. And then you can kind of gauge her reaction to it and see if it's something that she would like in the future. But if she's just really unreceptive and ungrateful for you trying to take care of her, it's a very good sign for you to just run in a different direction. If you are the type of man who wants to go 50-50 and does not intend to provide for his girl, I can't be much help for you. I don't have much experience on the subject. Even my gay friend pays for me while I'm out, so I enjoy being taken care of and people like taking care of me. Okay, the next question that I get all the time is, when should I schedule the second date? On the first date. If you're really interested in a woman, make sure you have a second date before the first date is over. If your dream girl is in front of you, you better believe that you're not the only man who thinks that she's your dream girl. You have competition, and if you want to stand out, the only way to do that is to get on her calendar and become an integrated part of her life. If you are not actively spending time with her, you are not in the running to become her boyfriend or her husband or whatever. You don't exist. Or you could be entertaining her through text messages, but the relationship is not going anywhere if you're not actively taking leadership to schedule the next date. And I know it can seem like you're being too keen if you schedule on the first date, but every man who has had any kind of relationship with me and any man who I've taken seriously has tried so hard to lock me down that it doesn't give my brain any space to guess whether or not he's interested in me. That really insistent pursuit makes me feel relaxed and makes it clear in my mind, okay, this man who's scheduling the second date on our first date is really into me. And Joe Schmo from around the corner who's been texting me for a week and has not made any plans to be on my calendar, clearly we can't take him very seriously. So you getting on her calendar as soon and often as you can really just elevates you above the rest of the men in her rotation. It helps you to stand out for the competition, and it helps you to take leadership of the relationship. So if your dream girl is in front of you and you've had a really nice first date, take that opportunity to make sure that she's coming back for a second. Because if she's your dream girl, I promise you that she's also other men's dream girl, and you have competition. So you want to make sure that you take every opportunity you can to stand out from that competition. Okay, the next question I get asked are, what are some red flags that girls look for on first dates? Now, I kind of hate this. I hate the idea of red and green flags. I think it's just too black and white for most relationships, and I think it depersonalizes people and just kind of attributes them to their one-off behaviors. If you want some concrete things that I look for that I run away from on a first date, it would be anyone who doesn't take physically good care of themselves. So if someone clearly doesn't go to the gym, if someone clearly doesn't eat well, if someone doesn't take care of their skin, or if they're not dressed well, or just generally their hygiene is bad, I run the other direction. So I guess that's a red flag for me. Anything that indicates that someone's not taking good care of themselves, run the other direction. The next thing that is a red flag for me, if someone just has a cheap mentality and has a scarcity mindset. So if a man is cheap with his like time, attention, and his resources, my brain really thinks he doesn't care about me and he's not invested in me, and therefore we can't take him seriously. So if someone's not willing to invest time and energy and attention getting to know me, we just move on. And this can manifest in a few ways, like they're just stingy about the bill, or they're just not willing to give me their full attention and they're on their phone half the time. Another red flag that I look out for is if someone is negative or cruel to people around them. So if we're out and I'm on a date and the guy's like mean to a waiter, or he's like cruel to someone he's just met at a bar, it's a really good indication for how he could treat me once he's off his best behavior. So I'm generally looking for men who are kind and generous and want to take care of me and want to invest in the relationship. So anything that indicates otherwise is kind of a red flag in my mind. All right, the next question I get asked a lot is, how do women like being asked out? Again, I don't speak for all women, but I like being asked out in a warm, direct, and instructive way. So especially if this is a first date, you want to make it as easy as possible for the woman to say yes, because you're a complete stranger, she doesn't trust you yet, and her knee-jerk reaction to any question is probably just going to be no. Oh, you want to go hang out with a stranger? No thanks. But if you approach asking a woman out more in a directive fashion, it makes it easier for her to just naturally say, okay, sure. So for example, if I was in a coffee shop and a man came over and asked me, would you like to go to dinner with me? I'd be like, no thanks, I'm good. But if a man came over to me in a coffee shop and started talking to me about the book I was reading, and then he said, there's this really nice bookstore around the corner, let's go look at the books there. That's not so much a question, it's more of direction on what she should do next. And that direction is a lot easier to follow than the question that's posed most of the time when you're asked out. So whenever someone has like successfully asked me out, they've usually done it in a directive fashion and in a way that's easy for me to say yes to, that makes me feel comfortable. If you want to increase the chances of a woman saying yes to you, I will say you want to lower the barrier to entry as much as possible. You want to make it as easy as possible for her to feel comfortable saying yes and allowing you in her energy. So don't ask questions, the default answer will be no. Give kind, directive, warm suggestions to her about a fun activity that you think she'll like, and make it easy for her to say yes to you. Okay, so the next question that I get asked a lot is how to deal with a lady who ghosts you. In short, you do not deal with it. You respect the dead and you leave them dead. And this goes for women as well. If someone has chosen not to respond to you, then hear that, receive that response, and move on with your life. It does not show cruelty if someone has ghosted you. It is just a very direct way that their actions are communicating to you that they're not interested. It's not your responsibility to figure out why, and it sometimes won't even help you get closure if you happen to figure out the reason why they ghosted you. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Her ghosting you has showed you that she doesn't have the capacity to give to the relationship in the way that you need someone to in order to build a happy, functioning love bubble, okay? If you need something productive to do with your energy instead of digging up the dead and chasing after ghosts who don't want you, I suggest you go to the gym, you go make more money, and you go pour your energy into friends and people who you know like you. Someone ghosting you says nothing about you. It is their behavior and it is not your problem to solve. The next question I get asked a lot is romance dead? No, romance is not dead. I am so happy and blessed that there are men that I've dated who are extremely chivalrous and romantic. It makes my soul so happy when someone is still opening the door for me or calling me a ride. It makes me feel so taken care of when men go the extra step to make me feel like a princess. So I will say that my experience with men is maybe not the average woman's experience of men, because I tend to date older, I tend to date men who are more traditional, and that all tends to mean that their behavior is more chivalrous. But I also attract men who are just generally like that. So even men who I've attracted who are my age, they still open car doors for me. They still help me with my bags. They still give me little gifts. They still want to be that masculine presence in my life. And all of those little romantic gestures make me feel safe and taken care of. So romance isn't dead. Please don't let it die. Women love it. We eat it up so much. So if you would like to be on the top tier of her rotation, go the extra mile, give her princess treatment, and it'll really go a long way. The one thing I will say about romance though is that it goes a lot farther to do romantic things than it does to just say romantic stuff. Especially if you're in front of your dream girl, I promise you, people have like promised her the world. Now, a lot of what a woman receives as romance is based on her own personal love language. However, I will say that as a general rule, your actions speak louder than your words. So if you're really keen on someone, focus on doing more romantic things instead of just saying romantic fluffy nonsense. I love the fluffy nonsense. Honestly, some people have like weaseled their way into my brain just by whispering sweet nothings. However, the men who have gotten the farthest are the ones who show up for me and even do stupid little romantic stuff. I know I've spoken to a lot of men and there is like a frustration investing early on in the stages of dating because you don't know yet whether or not the woman is gonna reciprocate, and it can feel like wasted effort if she doesn't or if she chooses someone else. Just kind of like the reality of dating, that you can invest a lot in someone and they may not feel the same way. But if you really want someone, you want to win your dream girl, the best way to do that is to show as much investment as you can. So don't let romance die. If you really want her, go the extra mile and it'll be well received if, you know, she likes you and she wants to build a relationship with you. Okay, let's finish this video on a positivity note. So what are some green flags that I look for in men? The number one thing that I'm looking for in terms of green flags in a man when I'm on a date is whether or not he can create structure, because that makes me feel safe and at ease. That structure manifests in a few different ways. Him organizing a date and planning it is a way to create structure. Him having good communication is a way to create structure. Him generally taking leadership and ownership of the relationship is what I expect of a man in my life, and it's what I'm looking for in anyone I'm dating. So anytime a man is kind of taking the reins of the relationship and leading it, that is a green flag for me. The next thing that I'm looking for on a date is a man who is in self-control, because that makes you feel safe. If you're a man watching this video, you may not realize, but women feel like small, fragile creatures out in the world sometimes. But if you're a 5'3" woman out on a date with a man who's over 6 feet and he has muscles built like a Spartan warrior, that's really hot. But it's also really scary if he doesn't have self-control, because it makes you feel really vulnerable. You want to make a woman feel safe around you. And I'm always looking for a man who has self-control, because that means that I will be safe around him because he won't lose control of himself around me. A green flag that shows men are in control of themselves on a first date is if he's slow to initiate any physical contact, if he is physically fit, and if he has a job that requires dedication and intelligence. So those are all green flags that show a woman that a man is in control and she's safe around him. And just on the subject of initiating physical contact, you probably shouldn't be doing that on a first date. I think maybe the most you should be doing on a first date is like giving the girl a hug, but stay out of her bubble as much as possible. You're again a stranger to her, like give her time to warm and open up to you. Another green flag that I look for is a man who's generous and kind. If he's kind to me and the people around him, it's a great indication that he's like a safe, respectful man to spend more time with. Women want to be around men who make them feel abundant and cared for, so that warm, kind energy really goes far in terms of creating abundance and joy and happiness in her life and making her feel at ease. And then the final thing that I see as a green flag when dating is if someone has a compatible lifestyle and also upbringing to me. And I mean, I'm dating for marriage, so I'm looking for things like whether or not a man and I had a similar upbringing, or whether or not we have similar worldview or lifestyle, because all of that means that we'll have an easier marriage in the long term. So compatibility is a big part, but compatibility means something different to everyone, and whether or not you're compatible is just something you have to kind of suss out over time. Alright, that's all I have for you guys today. This has turned into a mammothly long video. It might end up being 2 videos instead of 1, I'm not sure, but I hope you got some value out of this. I don't generally talk that much about dating, but you guys really enjoyed my last dating video, so I'll be talking more about it on this channel. If you have any other suggestions or questions you have on dating, leave them in the comments box below. Bye guys!